Shut up and sit down.
Now you gotta go ahead and drink a whole bottle of sanitizer before you do anything.
If I could ride a bike, I'd zoom around the world with you sitting there.
Now in isolation, you've got to keep yourself well exercised and mentally stimulated.
Oh yeah, feel the burn.
Work those thighs, sanitize. Work those thighs, sanitize. Sanitize.
You are listening to the Dialed Podcast with Matt Lee Grand, Evan Price, Lance Hepler, and Jake Von Turing. When you come to the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on. Enjoy episode 111.
I'd cruise across the seas.
Now, I'm not going to give you health advice, don't know anything about stuff like that other than wash your hands and don't cough in people's faces.
Wash your hands. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Please don't let me go, 'cause I'd be nothing without you.
I need toilet paper, toilet paper, toilet paper. I'm out of toilet paper. It's my corona.
Got to make a grocery run. Well, that sounds fun. Why am I out here risking my life?
Hi, and welcome back to the Dialed Podcast. I am Jake Von Turing, and today I'm here with Lance Hepler.
Lance Romance coming at you from my humble Hepler compound.
It's called a bunker.
The bunker.
I like the compound. It sounds more impressive than it actually is.
The Hepler compound.
It's the
Skyping it in today. So.
House Day Hepler, spelled like Haus.
right.
There you go. Also coming to us on Skype today, Matt LeGrand.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? You guys you're there. You're looking like you're present.
Wait,
all accounted for.
Look a little bushy.
It's me right now, Matt.
Yeah. I'm assuming that Evan and Jake are there, but that's a big assumption.
Yeah, we're here.
Yes,
we're here.
we are in the studio.
The mustache is here, and that's what's most important.
Yep.
Yes.
Look it up. It's beautiful.
All right, Lance, you're breaking up a little bit. Maybe you can hold that microphone a little bit closer to you so the ladies and gentlemen of the internet can understand you.
I think it's his mustache that's causing a heavy amount of interference between the internet signal and the microphone.
I think you're onto something.
Which I'm pretty sure is how internet signals work. Is that right, Matt? Does it come out of the microphone?
Correct.
Okay,
it comes
good.
out of the mustache
Into the microphone.
It has to cross through a series of tubes.
Gotcha, okay. Direct current, right?
That's how the internet works.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That's what I thought, science.
And sitting across the table from me today, Evan Price.
Today I'm drinking a Red Bull. Lance will appreciate this. Lance, have you tried the peach nectarine flavor yet?
No.
Oh, you
I have
really
not.
should. Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. This is delicious. And it even says it vitalizes your body and mind too on the bottom, so you know it's good.
Yummy.
Lance, what are you drinking? We had a really interesting, was it Saturday, Lance? I think you quit energy drinks for a grand total of 4 hours. Which you managed to announce on a group text, and then immediately after the ride drank a Red Bull.
I missed that one.
Yeah, I felt really good for about 4 hours, and then I decided to have another one, and then I felt even better. So go figure.
Matt, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking one of our sponsors' finest lemon bubbly waters. This is from LaCroix.
Oh, so, yes, our new sponsor. Yes.
Our newest sponsor. Yep.
Yes, thank you, LaCroix.
It's 0 calories, 0 sweetener, 0 sodium, 0 problems. It doesn't say that on there, but I'm just ad-libbing a little bit. And this is what you want to get yourself. You want to support the podcast, support LaCroix.
Yeah, and there's no problems, so, can't go wrong.
0 problem.
Right on. Yeah, let's jump into our back pedal. Evan, since you kind of already started to allude to a couple things there, why don't you start us off this week?
I had a super exciting last week. All of my rides were on Zwift, and all of my runs, minus one very short run, was on a treadmill. So I'm fully embracing the indoor training right now, which is just so exciting. But there is every Friday right now, me and Tonk are going to be trying to race together on the Crit City course in Zwift. Any of you Zwift racers out there know that that's a fun course. It's like about 10 miles, about 20, 25-minute effort. And it was fun. A couple of my pro triathlete buddies were in that race on Friday, so that was fun to duke it out with them. And I ended up, I'll give a short race report. Ooh, am I the only one who raced this week? Technically, I count this as a race. Lance, quiet over there. I can hear Lance rolling his eyes right now at me over the internet, coming out of his mustache. I can hear Lance roll his eyes right now. But here's the biggest problem with Zwift racing is that making a late move is so hard in those races. Like, it is so, you got to be putting out something absolutely bonkers to get away from those fields. So, of course, I tried that in the last lap of this course, which would have needed to be like some crazy 2-minute effort, and I held on till probably the last about 400 meters. I got caught and swallowed up by the whole field, and Tonk sprinted to a podium finish. So, Tonk's got a solid top-end sprint, which is great.
Good on you, Tonk.
Good job, Tonk. Yep, I will try and get that breakaway right, but probably won't get it right, and we'll continue to try this entire summer. But on Saturday, we rode with Lance and Jake joined us, and then immediately broke off from the group, broke the rubber band, and went off on their own little time trial for a while. And then we caught back up with them and did a couple hard efforts up Titans Grove on Zwift, which, Lance, you ended up getting the Century, right? Did you make it all the way to the Century?
I did. I rode 100 freaking miles on Zwift on Saturday or whatever we
absolute
day was.
Lance.
It was and he was holding you were putting in some solid efforts up that climb too. Like, that's Lance still somehow his body has retained fitness from even this injury, which is great. So that was fun to see.
I'm not so sure about that, but we'll see.
Still pretty. I mean, hanging out for 100 miles on that, and we were pushing up that climb each lap, Lance, too. So that was solid.
What's funny is, I got on the trainer not really planning to do the whole thing with you guys, but having you guys there just kind of I had nothing else to do. I just didn't want to ride for 4.5 hours on the trainer. But
it does somehow make it go quicker, right? When you're actually with people, it does make it somehow go faster. I don't know how, but it does. So Jake was with us for 3 of those hours at least, right?
A little over 2.
Over 2.
I had things going on in the morning, and my wife was wanting to get on to ride beforehand. And long story short, I got on an hour after you guys started. So you guys were already 20 miles into the ride. So I only had a little over 2 hours to ride. So,
Yep.
But man, you guys kept a pretty brisk pace.
It's indoor training, as mind-numbing as it can be. The reason I'm truly enjoying it is it really is a good way to really get specific with your training. And as long as that's your only goal, which is really my only goal right now, you can really build some good fitness. So, yeah.
The average speed for the 50.19 miles that I was with you was 24 miles an hour. Now, I know that when you're on Zwift, you're going a little bit faster and all that other fun stuff. But still, if you go back and look at
free pedaling either. That's
exactly.
It, so,
there's no reprieve. Yeah, so the normalized power and the sheer effort going into that was pretty solid.
Yeah.
And every time we get to that Titans Road climb or whatever it is, Evan would just magically float off the front because he's
I like that climb a lot. I like that climb a lot.
I'm putting in more watts, and he's still putting time in. More watts, still putting more time into me. Putting in more watts. I'm like, my God. I'm like 450 watts, and he's still rolling away from me.
So Tonk on that very last climb, Lance, I know when we all went all out on that climb, that basically put us right at 100 miles. It's great. It's great training for Tonk because he's really training for Baker City long term, which I've never done Baker City, but for those on this call who has that big climb at the end of that race. Tonk put out a crazy, for his weight, which is light, 360, 370 up that climb, which is about a 4 or 5 minute climb to end that 100-mile ride. So it was a good flash of fitness from him, and Lance is underplaying himself, hung on the entire time for more than 4 hours in the saddle, which coming off of a brutal injury. So that's incredible, Lance.
Fun.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. And then Sunday, to wrap up my back pedal, I decided to run 23 miles on the treadmill. So that was all the indoor training. Yep.
How long was that? How much time did that equate to?
2.5 hours.
So you spent about 4.5 hours on the trainer on Saturday and 2.5 hours on a treadmill on Sunday.
Yep. I think I'd actually rather run for 2.5 hours on the treadmill than 4.5 hours on the trainer, though.
Well, you put those things together, and I think Lance just threw up in his mouth a little bit.
I know, yeah. It's not fun.
I'm feeling a little sick to my stomach, actually.
Yeah.
That's funny.
There's my back
Evan,
pedal.
that was what, kind of 630s?
Yep, 630s, and kept the heart rate in like the mid 140s, low 140s the whole time. So
How did the legs feel afterwards?
the legs felt fine. I was even able to get off, ride the bike, do some climbs in the New York Zwift course, and then went outside and did some strides and drills after that just to get some sunshine. And that was it.
Nice.
Cool.
Good.
Yep.
Lance, you want to backpedal for us?
Sure. I actually had a pretty solid week, even though most of all of it was inside. I still put in almost 14 hours and 270 miles, so I felt pretty good about how the week kind of came together for me. I did quite a bit of stuff on Trainer Road. I did some stuff on Zwift. I actually failed my first workout on Trainer Road. There was a very hard workout I tried to do on Thursday, and I just blew to pieces halfway through it and had to quit. So that's kind of how that goes. But believe it or not, it's funny that 4.5 hour ride on Zwift was less training stress than a 50-mile ride I did yesterday on my cross bike. So
Oh, I can believe that. Yeah.
it's just how much I guess how much easier it was just to kind of methodically pedal away for 4 hours than to go out actually in the real world and make some efforts up some hills and on some gravel roads. So that was interesting.
Were you following a structured program yesterday?
No, it was a
little fartlek approach.
It was
there?
it was the sun is shining, and I just want to go out and ride a little bit, and I ended up going for 3 hours and 50 miles, and my road bike is still not put together yet, so I took my cross bike out and did some mixed terrain stuff. So
cool. Right on. How about you, Matt? How was your week?
I didn't do a ton. I rode indoors a couple of times. I rode my rollers once for a little bit. Small confession, I suppose. I did go outside. I know we're not really supposed to bike outside, but I went outside twice on the bike, which was really nice. One, I went with my oldest kid, and then we rode around, and he got a flat tire, which I didn't have a 24-inch tube for him to replace, like I wasn't carrying one. And so I had to have the wife come pick him up. So.
Sag Sport to the rescue.
Sag wagon.
Yep.
And then I've just been trying to stay close to home. And so I've been doing just up and down our Lacamas Lane climb, just because it's literally a stone's throw away from my house, and I can just go up and down. And I don't know. I don't remember what I got yesterday. I don't know, somewhere between 2,000 or 3,000 feet of climbing in an hour, right? Because it's just climbing. So it's boring, but it's something. And it was sunny, and so I think that's, the same thing as Lance, right? Sun's out. Even Evan, right? You were sun's out. I need to go do something outside, and
exactly.
Right now, biking is kind of what I can do. So,
Achilles
has been bugging me a little bit. Yeah, it's been bugging me a little bit. I still have my shoes cut. I have the heel cut off my shoes, which is a little bit weird. But whatever. I'm still able to climb. So
were you using those shoes outside?
Yep.
Wow.
I know, right? My foot slips out or whatever, but whatever, it's fine. It's something to do.
Makes for a quick transition, huh?
Yeah, your transition times would be just absolutely flawless right now, Matt.
I'm not sure if getting my shoes off is the hiccup with my transition times.
Don't you just usually kind of just you just take too much time in transition in general, right? Yeah. Isn't that kind of your MO?
I usually get. I'm trying to think of what takes me so long in the transition, but there's something in there, right, where it's from the swim to the bike or whatever, where I'm not rushing. So it's not the bike to run split, but who knows?
Yeah.
Cut off a couple seconds.
Hey,
cut off the heel of your shoe?
Cut the heel
No.
off, slip the shoe on. There you go.
Right on. Real quick, mine was a bunch of Zwift like everybody else. It's funny logging on to Zwift on like that
There's
Saturday.
so many people on
that
it right
Saturday
now.
ride just in Watopia. There was like 11 or 12,000 people riding in there.
There's so many people.
And that's not the other world. And they're actually rotating 2 other worlds now. Like so, you always get Watopia, then you get your choice between 2 other worlds now. And I don't know if that's just to accommodate more people or just to give you more options in general. But
getting the KOM is getting really hard too. Like, oh my gosh, with when it was like 2,000-3,000 people, KOM was always a reasonable mark. Now you got that one person that's like definitely weight doping, and they're just way out there.
Weight
with the
doping
time.
on an e-bike, So, and then yesterday I snuck outside too. That was my first ride outside in 2 weeks. I had to get outside, even though my shoulder was still bugging me. Matt actually invited me to go with him, but right now I kind of need to steer away from the climbing because getting out of the saddle and rocking back and forth.
You're like, climb up and down Lackmus Lane
20%
for over an hour?
No, that sounds great.
So I jumped on the gravel bike and just kind of took it easy and went out to the dike and just tried to hold some steady watts, and it was a beautiful day. I'm just amazed though every time I go down to the dike, and I was talking with a friend of ours earlier today, and Randy Frost, who was making the same comment. When you go down to the dike right now, it's just packed with people. It's been more packed in the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks. I've been down there like 2 or 3 times.
There's like a whole group of people that just found out what walking outside is, which is awesome. It's great. I mean, but it's just people gotta respect the distance. That's the problem.
But they're not doing. I mean, granted, I guess if you're going down there, you're probably with people that you live with, so you can be close to them anyway. But still, they're not really respecting the whole social distancing thing. Like you ride by them, and they're not giving you any. Like I'm having to like almost ride off the gravel road just to get around them, even though the bell's being rung and I'm saying rider back coming up on your left. They still just like kind of give you the evil eye and it's like, come on, people.
Yeah.
So
trying to not breathe on you as best we can.
But yeah, they're just all out there talking to each other too on the trail. I'm like, this just kind of isn't what you're supposed to be doing right now.
No.
Anyway,
we'll get there.
Neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But it was a beautiful day on the ride. Got to see it. There was a lot of people out there too. Like I was
pretty
on the
warm.
ride and I ran into 4 different people who I knew, and stopped and chatted with them at a pleasant distance and said hi. And then I finished the ride yesterday with my wife and 2 of my kids, and we did some little trail riding back there, and they all had a blast. It was my younger 2 who went out there. My son and my youngest daughter. Oh my gosh, they are tearing it up on the bike.
Yeah.
Oh, they're attacking like roots, and they're going over little rock drops and just like it's like, where did you guys come from? You're like totally different little riders. Now I know that they do a lot of riding in our cul-de-sac, but they don't have that kind of stuff. But they have been practicing. I go out there and watch. It's pretty funny, and I give them some little tips. But like jumping up and down the curb, so going down is a piece of cake. But going up of it, like having to like lift the tire and then pull up the back tire and whatnot, that's been paying off for them. And they were ripping it up yesterday.
Get some mountain bike control out of
Palmer Passage. They went flying through there yesterday.
Yeah.
And my wife's going to kill me for saying this, but they smoked her. They rode away from her. So
that's like a proud parent moment, though, isn't it? When your kid's smoking you in any aerobic event.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into this. Some interesting stuff. Champ Bailey, you out there, bud?
Champ Bailey here. There has been some events that went down this week.
Give us some lead-out news, bud.
I do have some news for you. The first being the virtual Tour of Flanders.
Yes.
So this was an e-race put on by on the Be Cool Foundation. It's something similar to Zwift or to I don't know what the Be Cool is, but they actually set up a race for the last like 45 kilometers of the Tour of Flanders.
30 kilometers of Flanders.
Yeah, something like that. They had invited 13 riders, all pro riders, to come be a part of it, like Remco Evenepoel and Wout van Aert and Michael Matthews, Greg Van Avermaet, Thomas de Gent, last year's winner, Alberto Bettiol. They had a whole bunch of big riders. And it was as exciting as you expect a virtual race to be, if you're asking me. Now, granted, it was fun to they live streamed it, so you could see the virtual race going on, but all the riders had a camera on them where they were live streaming, what they were doing. So it was interesting to see how all the riders, what their setups were like. And, but, it ended up being won by Greg Van Avermaet. He held almost 435 watts for 40 minutes.
Ouch.
So, which is pretty impressive. That's about, for Greg, that's about 6 watts per kilogram he held for the 40 minutes. And so, that was interesting. So that was kind of fun to watch a virtual race. So
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say,
you go ahead.
How did they standardize that? Did everybody have to be on the same kind of trainer, or was everything calibrated the same?
This is the thing, is I saw a bunch of the guys were on tax trainers.
Okay.
I don't think they were all on tax trainers though.
Okay.
So, this was kind of the issue. Now they had official weigh-ins. Ironman had a similar virtual event, but apparently I do not believe the Ironman event had virtual weigh-ins. Now, I could be wrong there. So they're all using these different platforms.
Sure.
As Jake and I were talking before this, Lance, I'm not sure if you agree. I really think Zwift has the best racing engine in the sense of how the race dynamics work. The Be Cool engine, with only 13 guys in the race, it was basically just individual time trials for everybody. There were kind of groups.
Wait, Evan.
Yeah.
That's basically what any Zwift race is too. They're all basically individual time trials.
No,
There's not a whole lot of
you can really hang in Zwift. Really, you can hang. Now, granted, it's not like, I mean, if you're in a group that's putting out 5 watts per kilo, you better be putting out more than 4 watts per kilo to stay in that group.
Yeah.
But I feel like the Be Cool engine looked a little bit different just because there was easier separations between everybody.
Yeah. Well, I think the reason they went with the Be Cool is because they actually did the actual course of Flanders. They could build that world,
which was cool.
Build that course, and then they could do that. Obviously, it's not as big of a platform as Zwift is, but it was interesting for them to be able to do that.
And
Either
way, it was just, I mean, like GVA's effort was incredible. Like that's,
of course.
I mean, it's a bummer for him showing that. I mean, Greg is not young anymore. So this may have been his last great, spring, classics. I hope I'm wrong there, but it's just a shame for him that's kind of how this will be remembered is GVA put out one heck of a virtual effort and that's it.
There was one issue was with, I don't know, like 10K to go, Michael Matthews' little avatar just stopped dead in the water.
Yes.
And it made you wonder if his Wi-Fi signal went out because his daughter jumped on Netflix in the other room. But actually, what he actually had found out, he actually had his bike got stuck in the 11 cog, and he couldn't get it out of the 11 cog. And so he actually had a mechanical.
He had a mechanical, yep. Virtual mechanical.
Wow.
Or actually, that's a mechanical, like an actual mechanical.
So now for Zwift racing, apparently you need to have a mechanic nearby to fix your bike as well.
I loved the unsung hero of that race was the commentary. The guy commentating was absolutely hysterical, and he was even saying that. He was like, "Oh, and it looks like Michael Matthews is waiting for the support vehicle. He must have a flat."
Yeah. You know, I think these kind of races are certainly fun to be a part of and to watch, and it gives us some kind of racing, while we have nothing right now.
Yeah.
But I just don't like that there's no racecraft involved. You're just mashing the pedals. That's all you're doing.
Yeah.
You're not gauging other people's efforts. You can't see who is suffering. You can't see who holds their line well. You can't see. There's no racecraft. It's just mash the pedals.
Yeah.
So that's my only personal gripe with it, which is why I always poo-poo Zwift stuff and Zwift racing stuff. I don't know.
I'll play I'll play the Matt LeGrand here and say, I think a lot of people in the triathlon world were really criticizing how Lionel Sanders, for example, I was going to talk about Lionel here in a second, with him being purely an indoor rider. I mean, people can criticize that all they want, but I've heard riders who are, from the likes of like Eric Lagerstrom, who has even said he started to utilize a lot of this indoor racing and training because he was getting tired of having Lionel blow by him. And I mean, cycling is a craft, but still at the end of the day, if you're at the end of a race with 40K left and you're at a 1% gradient, the guy who has the better power profile is going to pull away. So I think, I think when you look at that, it's still a good guesstimation of who is strong right now. And that's, Evenepoel looked awesome in that race. GVA was great. Thomas DeGent shows that he has just incredible top-end power. And, I don't think that's any different. Once they get on the road, I think that obviously there's a ton of other factors that go on the road, but those are all proven racers.
Funny note with Tom. He had done a race on Zwift earlier in the week, and he was flagged for having too much power.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me.
I don't know if you saw that.
That's funny.
In the Zwift racing world, if you average for the whole race more than 5 watts per kilogram, you're kind of automatically flagged because they don't really think that's.
And they have to look at it before, yeah.
Yeah, and so he was kicked out of the race for averaging over 5 watts per kilogram for the whole race. So,
which for him is actually just like tempo riding at that point. His watts per kilo, I'm sure, is 6. Like he's got to be close. Yeah.
In other news, are we done with that? Please say we're done.
Oh, no. I have one very quickly that we will talk about because Matt, I know that I texted you this, but I'm not sure if you got a chance to watch it. In the Zwift world, they also did a Ronda Zwift. Yep. They're basically trying to do like a classics version in Zwift too. And the difference is in Zwift, there are literally professional indoor specialists is what they call them. And some of these guys are absolutely ridiculously strong, but come from, I think one of them on the Canyon team is actually a professional cyclocross rider, if I'm right. And the Alpecin team joined this race. So Matthew van der Poel, who's sponsored by Zwift, was in this race. Also, Lionel Sanders was in this race. So you got from our legend in the tri world versus, arguably the best cyclist in the world right now. I don't think Matthew van der Poel really knows how to race indoors because once the first move went, he basically got spit right out the back. And the race came down to on the last lap, which if anybody here has ridden the Richmond course, it has just a 2 really steep climbs right in the middle of it. Lionel Sanders broke away and maintained his lead all the way to the end, putting out over 400 watts for the 35-minute race, which for him, he's 72 kilos, I think. So he was very close to that GVA power profile there, which is just pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's interesting. Once again, a guy like Matthew van der Poel gets dropped right at the beginning because there's no racecraft. It's just mash the pedals, but I get it. Yeah.
Hey, it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's for sure.
Hey,
Absolutely.
if you're a paid professional cyclist right now and you don't want to stay in shape and keep your power profile high right now, I think you should get embarrassed online. And I think Matthew van der Poel's in incredible shape. And probably after 2 races, he'll figure it out and blow up and win every single race he does. But I mean, you look at this is the same thing with when I look at like the NFL and NBA. These guys are still getting contracts right now. Like, you better stay in some good shape. And if they want to switch everything to virtual racing, I say more for it. I think it's awesome.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do they have more races scheduled for?
That's a good question. I'm not positive. I was trying to look at the schedule from Be Cool, but I'm not sure.
Interesting.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
I still have never done an online virtual race.
Really?
None. No.
Oh God, you should jump in. They're fun.
Yeah. Just workouts, rides, and watching YouTube.
It's the only thing that keeps me motivated each week now. I get tired of the workouts personally, but yeah.
I'll have to join one of these days. So
they're fun.
What else you got, Lance?
Dirty Kanza announced a postponed date for their 200-mile gravel race.
Yep.
They moved it to September 12th. So we're hoping that we will be back to racing by September, and so they have moved their race there. This is, and I think this kind of highlights what kind of issues we're going to deal with this fall if a lot of these races get postponed into the fall. Now, Dirty Kansas is only a week after another big gravel race. Rebecca's Private Idaho will be the same weekend before that. And it'll be the same day as Grinduro, which is a very popular gravel race in Northern California. So this is kind of what we're going to deal with a condensed race schedule in the end of summer and fall, if we're back to racing by that point.
Would you plan on going to Idaho again, Lance?
I was not planning to go again this year. The race sold out very quickly, and I didn't actually get in because I'm trying to focus on my cross season, which starts that weekend.
The 900-day training plan. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
900 days.
Yeah.
Lance, how are you? Are you feeling a little more confident? I mean, you've had like really only a week or two of training since coming back from this injury. Do you feel like you might be okay, or are you starting to get any hints of that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do feel like I'm going to be okay. I can definitely tell that I lost some fitness, and I just feel flabby and soft. But I feel like when I'm on the bike, I can push some watts for a few hours and be okay. It's funny. I can ride and not feel any pain or any discomfort. And then I get off the bike and I like limp around a little bit for a couple hours. It's like I can't walk very well, but I can run. I mean, I can ride just fine. So I don't know. We'll have to see what happens with the cyclocross season this year.
Okay.
So that's a good question. Two other things I wanted to talk about. There was a healthcare worker who had locked his bike out outside his hospital when he was doing his shift, and his bike was stolen. And he mentioned he posted on Twitter that hey, hope you enjoy the bike while I was inside trying to save your friends, whatever. And cyclist Luke Rowe contacted him and gave him a bike.
Oh, that's awesome! Yeah.
So.
Luke Rowe's an awesome guy.
That was kind of a cool story.
Luke Rowe's got a really cool couple of YouTube videos up that talk about him. He's a really, really cool guy. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah. And in our last bit of racing news, after 14 stages of the Tour de Quarantine, the winner was the, quote, very, very cute dog. He won just ahead of the lady on e-bike and the guy in orange. So if you didn't see any of these YouTube videos that were produced by Brad Soner, they were hilarious. They're all little racing parodies of people riding their bikes around Pittsburgh next to PNC Park down on the waterfront. It was so hilarious. This guy, Brad Soner, he's actually a professional cycling race commentator based in Pittsburgh. He's called the Tour of Utah before. He's called several races before, and he did 14 stages of this Tour de Quarantine, which were hilarious. If you haven't seen them, go to YouTube, put in Tour de Quarantine. You will not be disappointed. The videos are only 2 minutes long, and they're hilarious. Have you guys seen any of those?
No.
I have
not.
There's
been
one
looking
that's been
up
making all
of
the
them.
headlines. Yeah.
Yeah, they're hilarious. He makes fun of lots of just fantastic things. Everything about bike racing he's making fun of, and they're not disappointed. They're fun. So
Gotcha.
Champ Bailey out.
Thank you, Champ. We appreciate that. Hey, real quick before we jump into our topic for the day, just wanted to kind of follow up on our Patreon account that we launched last week, which we've got a couple patrons. So we've got a couple show supporters.
Woo!
And I just wanted to give a personal shout out and thank you to the Wick family. They are patrons now of ours, and Laura Anderson, who is another listener of the podcast. And I just wanted to say thank you to them. And anybody who is interested in help support this little podcast so that we can continue to bring it to you on a weekly basis and kind of spread our wings a little bit more and get a bigger, wider reach out there, check out the link, and we'll post it up again on our Facebook page. And you can get in there and check out the Patreon page that we have set up. There's 4 different options for I guess there's 2 of them there for people that are, just listeners, and then there's 2 there that are for show sponsors. But anybody can do any one of the 4. So all the different tiers are explained, and you get a couple of the little benefits and perks from those. Some pretty cool stuff, though. So just wanted to say thank you to them. Woohoo.
That's fantastic.
Thank you. I feel like we need to bring a few of them on here. They're probably much more interesting. Well, I know that all of them are much more interesting than us. So
right on. Cool. How about it, guys? You ready? It's the hot seat. Hot seat's back. I got to work an effect there. That's just seat. That's just not very good. So let's do the hot seat. It's that time of the month, and anybody want to go first? Any takers?
I'll go.
Lance,
go. Lance.
All right. So if we do manage to venture outside our Zwift caves and ride outside during this time, should you wear a mask while riding
Dang it,
outside?
Lance. That was on my list.
That was my entire list. Dang it.
It was like the most topical one for us to talk about that I just came across. So what do you guys think about this?
Me personally, that's a pass.
I say yes, only because the CDC is now suggesting that we wear masks. I have some friends and people I know that are making their own masks, so I would suggest if you have people that are making their own masks, try to get them from them instead of going online and trying to hoard or buy a bunch that could be going to medical suppliers right now. But yeah, that's my personal opinion, personal take on that.
What about you, Matt?
I'd say I feel like a mask definitely belongs in, like, if you're going to go to the grocery store or something like that. If you even have like a tickle in your throat, then absolutely seems like that would be super. Like, you have a tickle in your throat and you're like, I still want to go ride. Then just throw the bandana on or something along those lines. One of the like images that I saw was basically the way that if you're coughing or anything like that, or even just breathing while on the bike, it's basically this kind of like cone disbursement of your own personal recycled air, back behind you, and it goes back quite a bit further than 6 feet because you're moving forward quickly, and that kind of air or tainted air, has a little bit larger volume of space spread. So if you were to wear like a bandana or a mask or something like that, that should keep a lot of those particulates out of the air. So I think that's something for all of us to consider. Again, for me personally, if I wake up and I feel really good, I don't have a temperature or anything like that, I'll probably only use the mask, potentially if I'm like going to the grocery store or something like that. I did bike yesterday. I did not wear a mask. So I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence. How's that sound?
I think, yeah. I mean, I think kind of everybody's take now is, yeah, it's just, I think if you're in a high volume indoor place, it makes sense. My only, worry is with that CDC announcement or suggestion, or I'm not even sure how to classify it from them. I hope that doesn't cause a lot of hoarding from materials that could be going to the hospitals, because, and I know, Matt, you have, obviously Kristen, I'm sure, can speak to this much more specifically, but at least in this area, I think we're pretty low on PPEs now. So I would hope that that's not taking from the hospitals right now.
Well, I think they're expecting people to be wearing, bandanas or scarves or handkerchiefs or homemade masks, not actual, masks that could be used as PPEs in a hospital setting. So
yeah, but I was just at Safeway, and most everybody was wearing medical masks. They did not look homemade. I think I saw one that looked homemade, and that was it.
I was the same thing at Costco this week with my wife. Everybody was wearing medical masks, and there's quite a few people that were wearing the N95s.
Yeah, I saw quite a few of those too in Safeway.
And it actually upset my wife a little bit. She's like, "Why would these people have those masks? Why wouldn't they like not buy those? Use something different. Turn those over to the medical people that need those things right now." I don't know. It is what it is. You can't tell somebody, and you don't know everybody's story too. If somebody's got some sort of compromised immune system, or they're asthmatic, or whatever, maybe they need it for some reason.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I can tell you that the physicians and doctors are recycling masks already, and it's kind of a gross situation. So
it's not good.
I know. I'm very scared for them.
Yeah, but to answer, to basically go back and say I'm not going to wear one. I go in the same breath as Matt. It's like if I've got some sort of an issue, like if I've got a tickle in the throat or if I got a runny nose or something's a little bit askew and I still want to go out for a ride, yeah, I would probably throw on a neck buff and I would put it over my face. And like I mentioned yesterday when I rode down to the Washougal Dike, there was a lot of people down there. So if I have an issue, I'm probably not going to want to be around those people or subjecting them to what I have going on. So I'm not trying to be a complete ass here, but I'm not going to wear one unless I think that it's a problem. But then again, I don't know if I'm, if I don't know, maybe I should. Maybe you guys can talk some sense to me because you don't know if you have it sometimes. So.
Well, I also think it's maybe like where you ride also. I mean, if you're going to be by yourself out on some country roads versus if we're going to maybe go for a spin down through Portland.
Yeah.
I feel like those are different scenarios and we might kind of weigh them differently and be like, you know what, we're going to be exposing ourselves through more people because of this ride. We should take extra precautions, versus on my ride yesterday, I did not see a lot of people.
No,
so.
I was going to say, yeah, Matt, it's the same idea. If you're going through like the Washougal Hills right now and doing repeats on a hill out there, you may see one other cyclist right now. Like you could probably pull the mask down and be okay. Now, obviously, if you're riding and passing a family of 6 walking on the side of the road, pull it up, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah, that's the great thing about a bandana. It can be quick to flip up and down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's why I think I personally would recommend having a neck gaiter and keeping it on if you're riding outside. And if you come to a trailhead area and there's people out and about, this is not about, this is about their safety, not so much about yours. If you potentially are a carrier, you don't want to be breathing heavy and spreading things to other people that you may not even know you have. So to pull that neck gaiter up while you go through a trailhead area, or just like Jake, I rode down the Washougal Dike yesterday as well, and same thing. There were a dozen times I pulled up that neck gaiter just because there were so many people around, and I didn't want it to make other people uncomfortable. So, one of the things I did was try to pass them at Mach speed so they didn't know I was coming.
So it narrows the cone of breath. Yeah.
Yes. Or the other,
hold your breath the entire time.
I'm just a mucusy, sweaty mess of
a
guy
mess.
when I
am
riding, and I don't need, I gotta find a blank spot in the world to spew my bodily fluids. That sounded terrible,
Matt,
but that's the way it goes.
Did you see the diagram of like they were kind of going through the air dynamics of how like your breathing spreads on a bike? I feel like me and Jake is like an appropriate cone. It like, comes out 6 to 8 feet and then funnels behind you and stays there for a second. Lance's is 20 to 30 feet of spray, and then it goes up in the clouds and rains back down on everybody in a mile radius, I think.
I'm pretty sure, it's like some sort of nuclear holocaust situation.
I think so, yeah. It's like
radiation poisoning that kills for days, yes.
Everybody in a 120-mile radius could be affected by Lance's nasal spray.
On this same note, like mountain biking has practically been canceled because most of the trails or trail systems around here, the parking lots have been shut down. The trails have like yellow tape up saying, please don't ride here. Please don't duck the tape, even though there may not be anybody else out there. But it's another thing they've tried to stop these congregation points that happen. We have a very popular spot in Portland here called Sandy Ridge, and the parking lot's been shut down, and they've trying to keep people out of there. In Hood River, Oregon, there's a very popular mountain biking spot called Post Canyon, and that they didn't shut the trails down because they said if you live close enough to ride here, you can ride the trails because people will be stayed, apart. But what happened? Everybody still went. So they finally had to shut the trails down to everybody. And so I'd hate for what happened in Italy where they shut down all outdoor cycling. You could actually get cited by the police if they caught you on your bike riding outside.
It was more than 2K away from your home. Yeah. And they were using Strava actually to track that.
Right.
Yeah.
So we don't want that to happen here. So if one way to make that safer is me to have a neck gaiter around my neck and pull it up, I'm next to anybody. If I do manage to ride outside, which I only did once last week, even though the weather was not bad, then I'm going to wear the neck gaiter and try to be safe. So that's what I think.
Yeah. Or Lance, you could become an indoor specialist. You can get sponsored for that, And then we can watch you racing on Zwift every week, and I'd be so happy. I'd be like, "There's Lance. I know Lance. He used to talk this down." This is going to be like that. What was the? I feel like Lance has talked down certain things and then just gotten really good at them randomly. It's like he'll be the devil's advocate for something and then good at it, and then move on to something else. I feel like this is the next thing.
Like cyclocross is horrible.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna go.
Gravel racing is for the birds.
I will have to admit, I did go for a swim this afternoon before we started posting.
Seriously?
This. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So I do have a backyard pool. Yep. I have a backyard pool. And
wait a minute. Hold on. Wait, you have a backyard pool?
I do. I have a pool in my backyard, and it's almost, I believe, 5 meters in length, and I did 2 lengths of it today before I got on the call here. So I swam 10 meters. I want you guys to know, so you should be proud of me.
Okay, Lance.
That's more than Evan and I combined for the week.
Lance, That's
right.
I have an offer from me and Matt. Matt, would you want to set up a video where we try to do a tether system?
Tether cord.
Lance, could we pay you a weekly pool fee? Me and Matt to try and set up a tether system.
No, $1,000 a person per week, and it's all yours.
Deal. Matt, I'm in.
You know what?
You want to split
that
cost?
Kills me, Hepler? You know what kills me is that endless pool that you just filled in that you had. That drives me crazy.
That does drive me a little bit crazy. But Matt, if we could come up with a tether system, I'd be all for this.
Oh yeah, I have some good tether cord ideas, so it's possible.
Oh, that sounds like a YouTube video to me.
All right. Good question. I like that. Matt, what was your question?
Mine was masks, but I'm going to come up with I'm going to adjust on the fly here.
Hot seat and a hot seat. Yep.
Hot seat. It's going to be extra hot. This is kind of a 2-parter. Should we be riding outside at all? First part of the question. Second part, group rides. Yes or no? At this point, with the quarantine going on, I mean, I recognize that people might listen to this podcast a year from now and be very confused. Like, no, group rides are a great idea. But my question is, within the quarantine situation that we find ourselves right now, group rides, should we consider them? Should we do them? How small a group? If I hit up Jake on a Sunday afternoon and say, do you want to go for a little spin? Is that crossing the line? And now that Jake has a cough, I'd say yes.
That's Lance. That's Lance.
Lance.
Oh, Lance, let's group ride, buddy.
I'm not going anywhere again.
Lance is canceled.
Lance, are you choking on the food that you just ate? I could hear you eating.
I must have been. Yeah.
COVID.
Seriously.
All right, so just to repeat my question, 2-part question.
Yeah.
Should we be riding outside?
Yep.
1. It is legal where we are, and I know that a lot of people listen to us in different parts of the world, and some parts are just like, no, it is not legal right now during this current situation to ride outside. Here, it is legal. We're allowed to ride outside. Part of that, group rides, what do you guys think?
I'll go first if you don't mind. I think for me, I think it's perfectly fine to ride outside, and to a certain point, I think we can do that. Now, we need to pay attention. If things in the hospitals start to get a little bit more dire, I was talking with old Dr. Chris Handel earlier in the week when we were doing our team Zwift Ride on Tuesday, and he was telling me that the patient numbers in the hospitals in the urgent cares are down by like 20 to 30% right now. So they're not dealing with that right now. I mean, there are definitely COVID cases out there, and they're just not rampant here in Clark County where we live. I think the last estimate that we saw like 2 days ago was like 150 people with that were COVID positive.
I think it was around 200 the last numbers I saw, and I'm sure it's a little bit more than that. But
obviously there's going to be more people that are going to be positive, but those people they're at home. So I think it's fine to go right outside. But once we get to a tipping point, or where they start to see people coming in on a more frequent basis and more beds needing to be allocated for those people, I'm gonna just go 100% indoors. I will just basically be done with outdoors. I will not put myself in harm's way because I don't want to take a bed from somebody else, and I personally don't want to be in the hospital surrounded by people that potentially could have the virus, and not going to go there. So that's my thing. Now, to answer the second part of the question, should we be doing group rides? I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think it's a problem if it were just myself and Matt, because it's very easy for us to keep our distance. But that's tough. I mean, that's almost kind of a coin toss. It's like, yeah, I want to go ride with Matt. I want to see my friends. And it was fun for me yesterday to see 4 different friends out on the trail and, stopped and chatted with them and all that other fun stuff. And, we need people to be around us. We're social beings, and already being cooped up in the house as it is really tough. So to be able to go outside and ride with Matt would be great. But if, based on the stuff that you guys were talking about earlier in terms of like particle displacement and this cone of like destruction that will follow in your wake,
that's just in Lance's case.
If one of us is sick, I don't want it to get into a situation where we're going to infect somebody else and then ultimately just continue to infect even more and more people. God, I don't know. That part is tough. The first part is pretty clear for me. The second part, I don't know. I would I don't know. I guess I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. I'm on the fence.
I'll say this is the thing when we're having these conversations right now is I think I'm seeing a lot of really, really aggressive people on social media. We all are, which is, I mean, maybe it's just because I'm like now just tuning into social media for like the first time in my life this last year. So I'm just now realizing like, wow, there's some really mean people in the world. But
hey, we're going to get over this just in time to jump into 100% politics.
Usually
this should be fantastic.
Usually I just ignored those people, but now it's like they're very much in your face. And I think it's just understanding that. So for me, I'm going to train almost exclusively indoors. Just for the sake of vitamin D, I'm going to get outside every once in a while, and I will probably be solo at most. I'd probably do a part of a ride with somebody, and I'm going to ride with a mask. But almost all of my running is going to be indoor. If I go open water swimming, it's just going to be with Cassie, who we spend a lot of time together anyway. So there's not, it's not like it's going to be me and somebody I haven't been around a bunch. But I think it's important too to realize that not everybody is as good. Like, I'm by nature an introvert, so for my health, I'm okay with this situation for the most part. And I also understand I'm a medical professional, so I need to not be in groups right now. But I think we also have to realize the importance of mental health during this. And I don't think it's evil or you're trying to disrespect the CDC's, requirements. If you're somebody who's like, I want to go ride with 2 of my friends because I've been cooped up and I am not feeling good right now. Like, I need to go outside. I need to get some sunshine and I need to see people. And I don't think that's an evil thing. Would it be what I do right now? No, but I'm not going to sit there and say that's wrong and you're bad and this and that, because we don't know if that's wrong or bad at this moment. We don't live in a high, we're not in New York City right now. If we were in New York City, I think it'd be a little bit different. If we were in Italy right now, it'd be a little different. But that's just, one person's opinion. I could be completely wrong, but.
I think for me, especially here in the Portland area, we've got a week of beautiful weather coming up, and so there is going to be a lot more people outside during this time. Do I think it's safe to ride outside right now? Yeah, I do. If you're alone. I think if you're alone or you're with your
or with Brandy
or with your partner, like Brandy and I have ridden together a couple of times because we are living in the same house together, and what she's got, I've got. So, we, for us to go ride together is no big deal. But if you're riding outside, please don't take any other unnecessary risks. Don't bomb the downhill. Don't take a risky jump on a mountain bike. You should just be more careful to keep yourself out of the hospital. You don't want that to happen. So I think, yes, it's okay to ride outside as long as you're alone and that you're not taking any extraordinary risks and you stay away from where people congregate. naturally, like the waterfront downtown Portland, like trailheads where you think people might be. We just don't need to mix right now until we get through this mess. So I think that makes it obvious as to what I would think about a group ride, which is absolutely not. We should not be doing that at all. Even though I'm sure you can safely ride with somebody else by staying 6 or 12 or 20 or 30 feet away from somebody else. But, man, this is just not the time to do that. I think you ride alone or with your housemates. That's it. Matt?
I think those are good recommendations. All in all.
Yep. I agree. And I mean, the thing is like we all talked about, we could have very different answers in 2 weeks from now. We could all be sitting here being like, breathing inside your house is very dangerous for 2 weeks from now. So we'll just have to track as this goes and adapt as it goes.
Yep. Good question, Matt. Did you want to give us your 2 cents on that? I'm curious to see.
I kind of agree with what our consensus is. And I definitely think that we touched on this, but this is, our thoughts in Southwest Washington.
Yep.
We're not in New York City because our recommendations might be way more conservative. But my gut feeling is like, weather's great. I'm going out. Send a text to my buddy. I want to, just to let him know, like, I'm going to be out, whatever. Like, but I think it's probably good to kind of resist that urge to send that text message and just go ride by myself and go somewhere where I don't think I'll see a lot of traffic. And if there is spots where there's potential traffic, that it might be smart to have that buff, there just in case.
Good call.
Yep. I agree, Matt.
Yep.
Evan, you got a hot seat question for us?
Yeah, I've got a hot seat question. So going away from purely the COVID conversation, what would you say is a fair equivalent? This is kind of a question towards Lance. When you're talking about, so Lance being historically a very high volume outdoor rider, what do you consider energy and mental, physical and mental energy expenditure equivalent indoor versus outdoor? And yes, that does depend on the type of outdoor riding you're doing, but let's keep it road cycling for both. With all with today's technology, including things like Zwift. Do you think that there's, if you have a 15-hour week outside, that's equivalent to maybe 10 to 12 hours indoor on the trainer? Or do you think, depending on the type of riding you're doing, it can be pretty equal?
Me personally, I find it very difficult to get the same kind of experience on a trainer or on Zwift, I should say specifically, than riding outside. I do a lot more work. I do a lot more rest. I do a lot more miles, usually riding outside, which is why I've shied away from riding indoors. But right now, you do what you can do. I'm also a big trainer road aficionado. I've been doing those trainer road workouts for a while, and I think that has also made a big difference in my fitness leading up to this year. And so I think that definitely has its place, having some structured training or structured indoor workouts. I think just jumping on the trainer and getting on Zwift, it's really difficult to replicate what you can do outside. But that's me personally, there's very little that you can virtually prepare yourself to like throw yourself into the corner of a crit, not knowing if you're going to come out of that corner on 2 wheels or on your back. You can't replicate that on Zwift. The only way you can practice that is to get out on your bike and throw yourself into a corner and see how you come out on the other side. So I guess that's my thought.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Fair points.
So, again, sorry, I was doing something else when you were asking your question. I should be plugged into this a lot better than I actually am. So, Are you asking if it's more difficult indoor or outdoor? Or
what do you think is the
equivalence?
Equivalence between the two. So if you were to put together like your 20-hour training week outdoors climbing with 20,000 feet of elevation gain, what do you think volume and intensity wise you would have to do indoors to basically be that equivalent? And Lance is making good points that obviously indoors you cannot even get close to replicating certain things that outdoors.
All the bike handling stuff, of course, you can't replicate that indoors. So there's no equivalency there at all. I mean, there's a zero exchange. So
core activation too is completely different.
Yeah,
but
just holding a position is one thing, but I think it's far more difficult to do it indoors. I mean, you're not getting the stimulus, you're not getting the input, you're not getting a lot of things indoors, but in indoors, you're not getting a rest either. I mean, sitting there and riding for 2 hours indoors is way more difficult than riding for 2 hours outdoors. Yeah. I can go for a 2-hour ride with anybody here and come home and be great, and it can be even a hard ride. If we go and do that 2 hours that I rode with you guys and then some on Saturday, that was taxing. I mean, you saw the picture of sweat that I was underneath my bike when that was done. I mean, I worked my butt off there. And it was a tough workout, and I think there's a value to that, though. I think that once you get acclimated to that, and then you go ride outside, I think that you're a different animal on the bike. I mean, it's if you can find a mixture of the both, to get the things that Lance was talking about, plus the fitness gains that you get from riding on the trainer. I think that's the best of both worlds. But the exchange rate, I don't know exactly what the exchange rate is. I'm thinking that 2 hours on a trainer is probably like riding 2 hours 45 minutes outdoors. I mean, that's the exchange rate.
Yeah, probably between like freewheeling and all that. Yeah,
stop signs and lights and just being able to kind of come off a little bit, but you're still keeping your momentum.
Yeah,
it's just not the same.
Yep.
How about you, Matt?
Yeah, I'll venture a guess and say that kind of 2/3 basically kind of is a good estimate. So if you were to bike indoors for 2 hours, it might be equivalent to a three-hour outdoor ride. Again, just because of a lot of the coasting I think you do that you don't do indoors. Again, I think you can definitely do more structured workouts and potentially push that number down to even less than 2/3. It could be even like closer to half if you're doing kind of workouts versus some of the outdoor cruising around that people might do. But these are just us BSing around and taking guesses at stuff. I think when you're talking about aerobic capacity and things like that, a lot of that's just straight up time. So maybe that should be counted as equal. So I don't necessarily think that if I were coaching someone that I would live by some strict rule of 2/3 or anything like that. I would just say potentially I might value it, maybe even use other metrics like TSS or something like that to kind of value the workout as opposed to, time in saddle and trying to calculate 2/3 of that and say, okay, well, when I'm trying to calculate volume or something like that, I think that would be difficult from a coaching perspective. So
and that's a good point, Matt. Is looking at it from a coaching perspective is, Lance makes a very good point. There's a couple things that I realize that are very, very hard to simulate indoors, and one of them is high power bike handling. So if you're climbing, like for example, if Matt's doing Lacamas Lane over and over again, it's very hard indoors to actually put out that kind of power and simulate how you have to control the bike during that, which is about that, it's just like how to ride a bike fast. It's about making the bike responsive when you're putting that level of power through it, which is something you can only simulate outside. But one thing I think that's difficult to simulate outside is, I have a very Ironman specific workout grouping that I do, and one of them is basically just ramps up and down for 4 or 5 hours. And that would be very, very hard to simulate outdoors because I'm going to be stopping, I'm going to be coasting, there's going to be wind, there's going to be gradient changes, and I have the ability to make myself incredibly bored. So if you're capable of sitting in a saddle for 5 hours and putting out, between a wattage range over and over and over again, I do think there's massive gains to get from that. Do I suggest that for everybody? No, because it's really, really boring. But I think if you combine the benefits of both outdoor and indoor riding, you can create a great variability aerobic system to grab from, especially when you're talking about Lance. I know you and I have talked about this. Is when I got into gravel riding, I realized a lot of that is great bike handling, but also just great power output, low cadence power output. That's really hard to simulate indoors.
Yeah, that's true. I also, if I'm doing a focused workout, like a specific set of intervals, just, I'm thinking about trainer road workouts.
Yeah.
They're much more effective on the trainer than they are outside. Because when you're outside, you're dealing with corners and stop signs and hills and it's difficult to find really good stretches of road to do consistent intervals if you're trying to do specific times, specific power goals, trying to hit I find that specific structured workouts are much more effective on the trainer than they are outside. But then again, it's just not any fun to stare at your computer screen.
Lance, getting fast is not fun. I don't know who told you that getting fast is fun.
You're absolutely right.
This is talk to every pro cyclist. Do they look like they're having fun?
No, you don't do trainer road workouts because you just want to have fun. It is specifically to get faster. That is true.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it's yin and yang. There's benefits and negatives to both, definitely.
Cool. We done with that one?
Yep.
Awesome. My question, and then we'll be done with this. So we just did a big team order with Giro. Giro is going to be our new helmet supplier for the team. And I had a bunch of people asking me this question. Jake, should I replace my helmet? Do I need a new helmet? How often should you replace your helmet? So my question to you guys is, how often do you personally replace your helmet? And what is your recommendation and what do you abide by?
Oh, boy.
Go for it, Evan.
Question.
I have replaced my helmet after bad crashes. So however often that happens, probably every 2 to 3 years, I would say at this point.
That's your approximate cadence for
that's about when I hit a bad accident usually. That seems to be the clip I hit at. Yeah.
Do you ever replace your helmet before you have a bad accident?
No, I don't think so. No.
So you wear it and you ride it until
I have a bad accident, because it's just about every 2-3 years. Yeah, because I'm thinking of each helmet change I've had. Aero helmets are different. Race helmets, if there's a really cool race helmet that comes out, I will definitely look into buying that. So I've changed aero helmets almost every 1.5 to 2 years now.
Gotcha.
Road helmets? No, I think I've had the same one now since I moved out here, so 3 years.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
How about you, Matt?
I'm going to say something embarrassing, and that is I have the same answer as Evan, which is not good. I basically was I was getting a new helmet about once per year, and that slowed down to about once every 2 years. Now I only retire a helmet if it looks like it's got any sort of wear and tear on it. So public service announcement for anyone that's listening to this podcast right now should be, go ahead and take a look at your helmet. I would love for you guys to look at your helmet before every ride. Look for any cracks. Look for in the inside, and the outside, and just look for anything that looks off or dented or anything like that. And if it is messed up, put it aside and order a new helmet. We should all be doing that. But I actually have a couple of helmets in there in good condition, and so I haven't felt the need to replace them as frequently. So maybe it's something that I should do, but right now it's really all the way out to once every 2 years or so.
Gotcha. How about you, Lance?
I've had some time to Google some things while you guys were all talking. So
that's cheating.
It is cheating.
I was doing the same thing.
Yeah. The recommendations is usually to replace your helmet every 3 to 5 years.
Yep.
Unless you've had an accident. So here in my latest accident, when I hit the road at 42 miles an hour, I didn't really feel like I hit my head during that crash. But on closer inspection of my helmet, there was definitely an impact. And so obviously that helmet got the I cut the straps off it and hung it up as a trophy reminder not to hit rocks going 42 miles an hour anymore. And
you were thinking about it yesterday. You're like, should I? No, I shouldn't.
No, I shouldn't. But me personally, I've only replaced helmets when they look like they're beat up too much, or when there's a great deal on a new helmet. So I haven't replaced them very often either.
The other thing for people to keep in mind is that we might not realize that a kid in your garage might right now, while the podcast is going on, be kicking your helmet or throwing it against a wall or using it as a bat. You don't know what your kids are doing with your stuff or your wife, who knows. But so it's worth inspecting your helmet on a more regular basis.
This is why I've decided not to have children at this moment, is to protect my helmets. Actually, that's the only reason, is
smart.
to protect helmets. Yep.
Yeah, protect those helmets, man.
Don't have kids.
Yeah, it's one of those things. They don't have to be that expensive either. And some of the stuff that I have researched and seen over the years too is you're not really paying for more protection when you start getting up into these really expensive helmets. You're paying more for like the research and development that goes into making them better ventilated or lighter weight. And that's why some of these helmets get up in that $200, $300, $400 range. Like a $70 helmet's going to protect your head just as good as a $200 helmet. So you to replace it, it's not that big of a deal. And if you think about what you're actually protecting, my God, we spend so much money on so many other things. Like, why not just, drop a few bucks on a new helmet every few years, or if you get a dent in it. So, but yeah, the common pacing that I've heard from a lot of people is replace your helmet every other year. Get a new helmet every year if you want to be super, conservative and make sure that your head is always super protected. But what Lance was saying, that 3 to 5 years, that's what they're recommending. And they've actually done tests on helmets that I think one of the tests was like the helmet was 26 years old and it just hadn't been worn. And
oh my gosh.
It still passed. It passed. But
oh, wow.
There are a lot of variables and factors that go into why a helmet's going to be, degraded over the course of time. And of course, crashing is going to be your number one guilty thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also saying it's how you clean it. If you use certain kinds of cleaners or solvents to, get all the muck and the grime and the sweat off of it, that can actually degrade the shell, and it can actually sometimes even degrade the foam. So your best measure there, the best practices would be to use warm water and some sort of just a soap. I've always told people, like, you can wear your helmet into the shower and just use shampoo to clean it out, and that will get all the little salt stuff off of there. It will make your helmet smell a heck of a lot better than letting all that stuff build up over the course of time. And just the warm water of a shower and the shampoo or the soaps that you're using will do a good job of cleaning it. That's a good practice or measure. And then don't obviously use like a hair dryer, or don't put it in a dryer or anything like that. Just let it air dry in a cool place, and you're going to be good to go. Other little things to consider too is try not to store your helmet in like the trunk of your car. That's not necessarily a good thing, because the heat can actually have quite a damaging effect to it. And they say too that if your helmet is starting to show signs of fading, let's say that you go out and you get yourself a nice bright orange helmet or a neon green helmet or something like that, and then all of a sudden it starts to show like a lot of signs of fading, that's because of the UV rays that are hitting it, and that can actually degrade some of the characteristics of the shell, and you want to try and use that as a litmus test too for when you want to get it swapped out. Also pay attention to the internal structure of it as well. There's the retaining piece that goes around the back of your head with a little wheel on there that kind of snugs it up. You got to make sure that thing's always fitting correctly. Make sure that you don't accidentally, because I've seen it happen before, like detach it or make it come off, and your helmet all of a sudden doesn't fit the same. They also say pay close attention to the pads in there. A, it's more comfortable, but B, it maintains the proper fit. And if the fit's off because those things are starting to degrade, then the helmet's not going to be quite as effective. So those are some basic things that you can take a look at. But yeah, every 3 to 5 years is kind of what the rule of thumb is. And I think myself personally, I've been kind of on that every other year pace, and it's like Lance said, it's because a deal comes along or we get a team deal, and sometimes we get a really killer deal, and it's like, all right, well, I'm just gonna have an extra helmet. And I usually will take my A helmet will be for the road, and then my road helmet will get downgraded to my mountain bike or gravel helmet because it starts to get a little bit more dirty, as long as it's still in good shape, and then so on and so forth. And Yeah, that's kind of the lifespan of my helmets.
I've also heard that I think the neon green color is considered the most visible, isn't it, for the furthest distance, closely followed by, I think it was orange, and then I forget the third color was right after, I think, which is the only reason I've gotten neon green shoes and neon green helmet now.
Yeah. So anything else that you guys want to lend to us with respect to helmets?
My only recommendation would be if you have a helmet that you're retiring, and because it's damaged, if you're not throwing it out, to make sure you cut the straps off it so that you don't inadvertently put on a helmet that you've forgotten you've crashed in or something like that.
True that.
That's a good idea.
That's a good point.
What about MIPS? Are you guys using helmets with the MIPS system in it? And MIPS is an acronym for Multi-Directional Impact Protection System.
I am not.
Nope.
I think I have one helmet that is.
Gotcha. How about you, Lance?
I do not have any helmets that are MIPS, but I have 3 on the way.
Yeah, I think I ordered 2 of them as well. So yeah, we got some Giro helmets coming with the MIPS system in it, which basically just helps protect your noggin from some of those rotational forces. And they've done a bunch of research and study based on how cyclists generally fall in the way that they hit their head, and they've come up with this system to better protect our heads. So might be worth looking into. That is going to be one of those situations, though, where you're looking at something that's going to probably cost a little bit more money because of the research and the development that went into that. So and it's probably just another way for them to make a few bucks off of you. But at the end of the day, if it's going to protect your dome, then I think it's worth it.
But is it?
Have you guys seen that there isn't there a new like helmet technology? And I think it's like I think Trek or Bontrager makes it, and it's like this kind of honeycomb pattern.
Yeah, I've seen that.
That one's supposed to reduce concussions by like 40% if used or something like that. I don't own that helmet, but I was interested in it when they first announced it.
Yeah, you need those helmets because of their stems, right?
Yeah, I mean, that Trek is a trustworthy company. They're going to stand behind their product. Wave cell technology.
Gotcha.
That's what they call
Matt,
it.
you can stand behind their product.
48 times more effective.
You can stand behind their product as long as you're not grabbing onto the handlebars of their product. And then that is when you need to be careful. But as long as you're just standing behind it, you're fine.
Don't put any weight
on the
any of their
product.
product.
Yeah, just don't touch the product.
Don't worry about the stem. Just wear a helmet and you'll be fine.
There you go. Yep, just don't touch the helmet while it's on your head.
That's where I messed up.
You should have just bought the helmet.
40 They're saying 48 times more effective than traditional foam helmets in protecting your heads from injuries caused by certain cycling accidents. So
sweet. Cool. All right, well, that's helmet talk. Anything else?
That's helmet talk.
Sweet.
Helmet talk with a Dialed podcast.
That's good.
All right, let's jump into one last thing. Evan, start us off.
Oh God. One last thing. I am extending an invite to the 3 people also listening to this. One person currently here with me to race with me on Fridays virtually. Lance, that's specifically going to you. That invite's going directly into your message box. Yes, Lance. I'm going to just text you nonstop between now and Friday, random invites to this.
Let's say a listener wanted to race with you, though. How could they do that?
So if somebody wanted to race, you have to have a Zwift account, which at this point I just assume if you own a bike, you're probably looking into getting a Zwift account now. And so what you can do is you go into your Zwift companion app, and you can there's a little events tab there, and you just go and click on the events tab, and it'll show you, I think for like the next 2 days, roughly 2-3 days, it shows you which races and which group rides are available. It's like one every like 5 to 10 minutes, so there's a lot to choose from. So if you want to race with a friend, make sure you guys know specifically what race you're doing and specifically which category you're signing up for. There's like A, B, C, and D races, I think, and those grades correspond with your watts per kilo, which you get from your FTP. And you sign up for a race with your buddies, and you race them. And then if you beat them, you're a better human being than them. And that's how it works, I'm pretty sure. So, Lance, let's race Friday.
I don't want to embarrass you, Evan.
I know. And I think you would. On a crit course, I think you would, because I'm pretty sure it calculates your cornering ability. So.
Awesome. Matt, what's your one last thing today?
I posted that April Fool's video, so if our listeners have not listened to that or watched that video, pretend like it's April 1st and click on that video. It's all about the Casio watch and if it's the best triathlon watch on the market. or on the market in 1983
That
when the
was
watch
April.
came out.
I just ordered that watch, Matt. That was an April Fool's video. Are you kidding me?
It should serve you well.
You really convinced me that is the best option by far. There is no better option.
How did you find it?
Oh, I just
thought I'd ordered the entire, full stock load of available watches.
There was a 92-year-old man selling his used one, former marathon runner. Yep. I think you raced with him in college.
Oh, Gerald? You talking about Gerald?
Oh yeah. Gerald sold me he's the last one on the market.
That's fun.
Yep.
That was great.
I think I'll try and post a couple more videos this week. Potentially one about a goggle company, and then another. Gosh, I don't remember what else is on my list of videos to make. Oh, I'm going to do that, review the photos for people that have posted the quarantine, exercising in quarantine hashtag. If you guys still want to post some photos, definitely do so with the hashtag exercising during quarantine, and you will be eligible to win something huge.
What if I want to post just a picture of my bike and I don't want a picture of actually me? Does that count or no?
Post whatever you want.
All right, cool.
Could make it in. You could win a sticker.
Sweet. So. Hey, go back to your video, Matt. That was a great video. You're doing good work out there. But I wanted to give Matt a little shout out for a shout out that he got from DC Rainmaker. That was freaking awesome.
Yes, Rainmaker from the famous DC Rainmaker website posted the video on his website, which I thought was cool.
Yep.
And posted a just tweet, busted out a tweet and threw that out there, which was cool. And I'm sure he sent some traffic there. And hopefully people, found it entertaining. So
cool. Good job, buddy.
I absolutely did. I think it's awesome. And now we have somebody world famous on this podcast, finally.
Not as famous as the other Matt LeGrand, but one of the top Matt LeGrands on
ballpark getting there, though.
I'm in the top. I'm in the top 3 of Matt LeGrands on YouTube.
On YouTube, yeah.
Lance, one last thing.
My one last thing is just to make sure that you are all being careful and taking care of yourself and taking care of those loved ones around you and keeping safe and honoring these stay at home and stay in place verdicts that we have from our government leaders, and just take care of yourselves, people. Be safe.
Gotcha. Good one.
Good call.
Yeah, my one last thing, again, is we're down here and we're in the studio. We're in the lab, if you will. I think that's what we're going to call this place. It's just the lab,
just
right?
the lab.
The
I
lab.
like as it's gotten shorter and shorter. I just like keeping it so just lab.
Lab. Yeah,
in the lab.
Covers a couple of different things here.
Yeah.
I'm not really working. I'm in here working on the lab, but I'm not really working with the general population of people. It's just kind of one of those things where I don't think that it's appropriate, and I don't think that I'm an essential person to be doing what I'm doing. But if people do need stuff, though, I'm still getting quite a bit of interaction going on through the website. So if you ever need anything, cycling related for all of your indoor training, or that one ride a week that you do outside when you're socially distanced, you can always reach out and ping me on the dialedcycling.com website, and I'll be happy to help you out there. But I'm going to be posting some pictures up because I've been getting more and more stuff done down here, and it's starting to actually look like a pretty cool little lab space. So I'll kind of share that with everybody as well. Maybe
I'd like to see
video.
it.
Yeah, it's coming around. It's looking pretty sweet, and I can't wait for all this stuff to be over because I miss having my friends all sitting around this table. So
seriously.
No kidding.
It's been a while, and then one last thing from the show. Again, just wanted to say thank you to our patrons, and if anyone is interested in help support the show, it's just a couple bucks, and that it's not really all that much, but it really goes a long way with us and helps us do good things. And if you want to be one of our patrons, check out the website, not the website, but the Facebook page, and we'll have it posted up there again. Should be fun. So I think that's about it for this week, you guys. Stay safe, huh?
Another week in paradise quarantine over here. Yes.
All right, you guys have a good week. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.